My name is Sara Savannah Jones. I think my parents decided for me that I was going to be an artist. They would send me to be babysat with a whole ream of copy paper so that I could just draw and draw and draw. And I would usually use at least half of the ream by the time they came to pick me up. They were always really supportive. My dad is a graphic designer. He taught me how to use Photoshop by age 4, maybe. And that's been a major influence on my style and how I came to be where I'm at now. I didn't have the easiest relationship with my mom, so communication wasn't necessarily allowed growing up. So the communication method became what I could put onto paper or canvas or onto Photoshop. After training in tons of different mediums, I decided I would go to school for art and business because I wanted to open up my own gallery. I quickly realized that that was going to take a lot of money. So I said, I guess I'll just teach instead. And I ended up getting a job pretty quickly as the art department head at a private school here in Lakeland. Now I'm their administrator for the arts and programs. I also got married really young. Spoiler, it was bad. And my ex-husband didn't want me to paint, didn't want me to be creative. I wasn't even allowed to listen to the kind of music I wanted to. I wasn't allowed to drive. I wasn't allowed to have a phone most of the time. So painting, any kind of creativity stopped for a couple years. I was also abused a lot. And I ended up getting out of that situation. And as soon as I was out, everything fell into place. I started painting again. I was getting recognized for my work. And I realized that on top of the skills that I had, I also had the experience that I could help other artists who weren't able to show their work for whatever personal reason they had. There are so many different obstacles that you could have for not being able to create. And I recognized that because I had just come out of it. So my goal became, how can I provide the opportunity that I needed to other people? Anyone who grew up here in Polk County knows that opportunities for artists have been scarce. We've seen a lot of galleries open and close, and that's another thing that I thought maybe I can help with that. Maybe I can help provide space to artists, especially now. It's not always acceptable or safe, depending on the setting, to talk about your thoughts or your opinions or your feelings. And that's where art comes in. The concept of an art show is literally, let's get together and talk about our thoughts. And I think that's the next best thing to therapy. So if we can continue that conversation, whether it's verbally or through a medium, the conversation is still going, and that's the most important part. I grew up here in Lakeland, and I have displayed in a lot of local galleries. Almost every single one of those local galleries has closed. I was a resident artist at Artifact Studios, and that was a really big opportunity for me that I felt like was ripped out from under me. I was able to produce art shows there. I was able to create my work in a private space there. I was able to gather artists together. We had a home. And after it closed, my really dear friend Ernie called me and said, so when are we making our own? In March of this year, I started an art collective called Space. We call it Space because that is what Polk County has struggled to keep for artists. And it's also an acronym. It stands for Sanctuary for Polk's Arts, Culture, and Education. And what we do is we seek to uplift the voices of artists in and around Polk County, and a special focus on emerging artists and professional development for those artists. Hopefully later next year, we can become a nonprofit and start working on things like grants for artists, professional development workshops for artists, because that's the ultimate goal, is just helping artists to feel seen. With the concept of Notta Gallery, I think what really inspires me is that it is in Lakeland for Lakeland. It's not some random corporation coming over. This is community for community. It's just encouraging in general. After what's happened in Polk County with the rise and fall of galleries and what I've seen personally as an artist, it's exciting and it's inspiring in general to make new work for a new space. It pushes people to be inspired. It's personally inspired me to make new work just at the concept of getting to go to a place where I can talk to other artists or other creatives or even patrons about why this is important.